Hello. I just upgraded my camera. I got the corny lights behind me that YouTubers have. This operation is slowly getting more professional, but it's also a matter of dialing it in. I have no idea what I'm doing. It's a process. As I always say, bear with me, please. The point, anyway, is not to look great, and thank God for that. It's to deliver some thoughts about the comic book industry, at least in these first videos. Hopefully we get to craft soon enough, and maybe eventually it'll just be me promoting things that I care about and gently critiquing things that I don't. But I wanted to today discuss the next level of people to blame, and this one is sensitive because they're the people I rely on most. You could conceivably burn all your publisher bridges and still figure something out. But if the retailers do not support you, you are dead in the water. If you make enemies out of the retail community at large, now many creators have small beefs, whether one side knows it or doesn't, with individual retailers. But if retailers as an entity are against you in comics, it's very difficult to win. And that's because of the relatively novel model that comic books operate under. If you're not familiar, you're new to comics and somehow you tripped over this, it's basically retailers in principle could just order what their customers tell them that they want. The place that it becomes dicey and the retailer assumes all the risk is the copies that you see on the shelves of comic book stores. Those are ordered in a type of soft science that is retailology, right? It's figuring out what you think people are going to buy based on past performance, based on gut feeling. A lot of things go into it. It reminds me, honestly, of managing a baseball team. But we need them a lot. And I hope that all the retailers that watch this video understand that I don't just value you, I'm scared of you. So understand I'm not trying to shit on you. I don't need that type of problem. I would provoke all the publishers before I'd provoke you. But you do have your concerns. You do have your issues that we should talk about. Nobody's perfect. And one place that you're particularly not perfect is recognizing the long game in small publishers and recognizing the long game in upcoming creators. I do not blame you at all for your skepticism or your cynicism at this point. It's well earned. You've been burned by a million publishers that talk a lot of bullshit and don't deliver. You've been burned by creators who basically treat you like a pump and dump scam. I get it. I really do. But you can't lose faith to the point that you're harming yourself, right? And that is what it is when you are not actively hand-selling new creators. As I've said in other videos, there's a major problem if you don't have a bench. And when we don't support small publishers, there's no chance at a bench. You know full well at this point that you can't rely on Marvel or DC for a roster of creators that people can invest in. You know that. You're going to end up with another Ta-Nehisi Coates, a guy who is brought in as a stunt casting from outside of comics. You're going to end up with the 30th writer on the season 7 of Charmed. When the pool is shallow, it means that you are going to be put in a situation where you have to promote past their prime creators who you know no longer sell, but you have nothing new in the pipe. It's a problem. And that is what happens when I hear publishers say things like, yeah, I don't look in the back of the book, talking about the previews, talking about Diamond Catalog, which is irrelevant at this point, but whatever. When you say, yeah, what's that new publisher? I don't know, Mad Cave or whatever. Look, Mad Cave may or may not sell in your store, but you gotta be aware. You can't be dismissive of this thing, because this is where the next generation of creators are going to be coming up. They don't all get image books out the gate. And the only people that are brought into Marvel and DC with no experience are, as I said, people from outside of comics who are not sticking around, right? So if you want to find the young creators who you can support, who will support you, that happens in the small publishers. You need to form bonds with creators. I don't want to tell you your business. I know that many of you have been doing this for a very long time. I'm not suggesting you don't know what you're doing. What I am saying outright is you've been hurt enough that many of you have become very cynical. If you compared this to romance, a lot of you have had some bad relationships, and it's difficult for you to love again, but we need you to love again if we're going to have a healthy industry. When you guys go down to subscription only, it's a dead end. And I know you know this, but you got to keep your lights on in the short term. I get it. But it's a dead end. We're going to arrive someplace really terrible. And look, I don't just say that because I'm a non-Marvel DC creator. It's just a practical concern, right? I mean, respectfully, I see you guys bitch about a lot of Marvel and DC creators. You do not seem happy. You have to get on this other shit. I mean, frankly, superheroes are a dead end. I know some of you are huge fans. I'm a big fan. I know you don't want to hear that shit. But it's a dead end for what you do. We're going to have to expand genre-wise. You need to be closer to a bookstore than a superhero store. I know I'm not saying shit you haven't heard before. But we've got to embrace these very simple ideals, the ideas that we've been hearing for a long time. Next up, know who your friends are. Honestly, I see some of you, I dip into the retail forums sometimes because, publishers want to show me what people are talking about, etc. And frankly, all the publishers say that they are your partners. How many of them actually act like partners that you would want in your life, right? And with that in mind, why don't you go towards where the love actually is? I know that you can sell more copies of the 6th Spider-Man book in a month than you can of basically any indie title outside of the top performers. I know this, but that has no small part to do with you, right? I'm going to give you a quick example. Again, nothing you haven't heard, nothing you haven't experienced, but just a reminder, please. Retail worker, specific shop, one of the ones you've heard of. Really passionate about a book that at that time had ended, and the trades were still popular enough that you could order them month after month, but it was never a big seller in single issues, not massive in trades either. This retail worker felt very strongly about this book. Whenever someone would come in, pick up anything that looked remotely in the same vein, he would, not pushy, but no uncertain terms, say, "Hey, I think you'd really love this book. It's in the same spirit, just as smart, and I think with better art. Don't necessarily got to pick it up today, but bear it in mind for when you come back, because if you like the book in your hand, you're going to love this other book." Simple hand-selling thing. You've done it a million times. He moved so many copies of that otherwise petering off, kind of dead trade that when the publisher shared information with the creator, here's where your book is selling, where it's not, he went in and he said, "Where's the guy that's selling all my books?" Assuming that it wasn't one guy. But it was. It was one guy spiked the numbers in an entire city, an entire region for the sales of this book. That is your power. you could make anyone a success in this business. You could take the worst hack in comics, and you might not be able to put them over, but you could give them a real advantage. You could give them a real leg up. I'm not suggesting you do that with the fucking hacks, but what I'm saying is you are potentially a cartel. I'm not trying to give you any ideas, but technically you could be a cartel if you wanted to, by the definition. So get behind something, you know? I know that you guys are like herding cats. I get it, and that's what I respect about this business, is that you're all highly individualistic. I wouldn't want to give up an ounce of my individuality either. I know that you value the way that your stores operate. I get it. But you got to get behind something. You got to be passionate about a thing and make sure your customers know this. We're backing this for a reason. You trust us. We're your store. But if half of you picked the same book to hand sell that month, it would spike in a way that none of the publishers could even wrap their head around. Now, it's no fair if the publishers are giving you fucking stinking piles of shit. I understand that that's difficult to sell, but you're very good at your jobs. Some of you are 10,000-hour experts, double over. You are proper professors of selling comics. Please let go of your hatred. Like, come to the light side of the force, please. And you know, the obvious scams, I understand why they sting, but you keep buying into them. Variants, I blamed publishers on one of these videos saying they're the crack dealer. But you guys became the crackheads with the damn variants. You got to bear some responsibility for it, and I get it. I have to do variants. We all have to sell variants in some capacity, and they're not evil in and of themselves, right? Like, they're just more art in principle. And comics obviously are a collector's hobby to some degree still, but in my view, most of you would be better served treating yourself like bookstores, where people come in for a thing that they're going to enjoy, a luxury product that brings them some pleasure in this life, and back away from the collector's market. If we all bear some of the blame of what's going on in comics and the market, you guys are the street soldiers of retail. Okay? you guys are the people that know the pulse of the thing, and I understand that's why it's so goddamn frustrating that nobody listens to you. I understand it. But you also have to be fair that you've got more than a few fucking total nutballs in your presence. So publishers are left with, publishers and distributor are left with this feedback loop that includes so much noise in the signal that they don't know what to do with it. Right? Because they say, okay, retailers, we're listening. They, the song and dance, we're listening. Tell us what we can do for you. And they get 200 replies, make things cheaper. But that's not practical. They're not doing that. Now, they shouldn't be selling $10 books. It's ludicrous. And you guys should be rejecting that outright. But they're not bringing it down off $3.99. I'm sorry. We got to get that out of our heads. I'm not an economist, but I've read enough that I think I could say with confidence, if we see the price of comics drop, it will mean that we are tail spinning. It's not going well. So instead of focusing on the things that they will not do for you and being irate about it, be clear about actionable things and then hold them to that standard. I hope you understand I'm not on the publisher's side here right now, but your side has to have an end goal of winning this thing. It can't be about old grievances. It can't be about doing things the way that you used to. Not to kiss your ass. I think I've done that enough. But maybe more than a lot of people in this business, I don't just sympathize with small business owners. It's a higher ideal. It's a thing that I believe in fully. So I want you to win. I feel like a lot of times there's an emotionality that gets in the way of retailers winning on this level. That's all. Best of luck to everybody. More blame to go around. Next episode, I'm going to be laying it at the feet of readers. Thank you again.